All right, we're ready. Today's Ben Joravsky Show for Wednesday, April 3rd is about to get started here. But before we do that, we got to thank the following unions for helping make this show possible. First off, the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers. Ben, no, not Aerosmith, Aerospace Workers. You've been doing great about that lately. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. Thank you once again to those unions for jumping on board with us and bringing the Ben Joravsky Show back. You guys are awesome. And today's show is brought to you by our friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Oh, my goodness. The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Wednesday, April 3rd, and live from the Chicago Reader, Chicago Sun-Times studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. No snapping. Today on the program, legendary Chicago journalist Monroe Anderson returns. We welcome Chicago Reader Publisher, Dennis can talk, Tracy Baim, and film producer Steve Cohen. And now your host, Tracy Baim's employee.
Yeah, man.
Better watch it today, buddy. Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Happy Wednesday.
He's here. He's there. He's everywhere.
Why I woke up today singing a song. You know, the one, I forget, from the 90s where the guy goes, it's a happy day. It's a good day. Or I'm happy today.
Oh, yeah. Nobody knows what you're talking about.
It's got the sample from the Isley Brothers. I hear footsteps in the dark.
My.
Whoa. And then the guy talks about how he had his mother made him breakfast, or his mama made him breakfast, but she didn't feed him hog. You know that song?
You're talking about a rap song.
Oh, yeah. And then later on.
Today was a good day. Ice Cube.
Yeah, today was a good day. And then it ends up with
sounds nothing like that.
With the Bulls beating the Sonics.
Lakers.
Oh, well, when I do the song, Bulls beat the Sonics. Bulls win.
Our host, ladies and gentlemen.
Anyway,
he's hip.
but it's a good song. I'm not a fan of hip hop or rap, but I like how they have the Isley Brothers there, and then
it's called sampling.
Sampling. Okay, that's what it's called. Some people would call it stealing. As long as they pay Ronnie Isley, I'm good with it. All right. Anyway. I like that song. It was a good day. I woke up.
No rapping.
Oh, sorry, man.
Or whatever that was.
I like how, and then it ends up like he's eating a hamburger at 2 a.m. You know that part of the song?
Fat burger.
Fat burger. You really know this song.
I like the song a lot,
I
actually.
like the song. Anyway, I woke up singing that song because I was feeling so good. You know why? Because Mayor Rahm's not going to be the mayor for much longer. Come on, all you lefties out there with the long faces. You're feeling so bad because you were supporting Tony Preckwinkle. Lori Lightfoot, let's face it, folks, kind of mopped the floor with her. If we're going to use a basketball analogy, it wasn't even close. The election was over like at about 5 minutes after 7. But look on the bright side compared to what happened 4 years ago. Oh, my God, let me just take you back in time. That's the time capsule of me going back in time, D. All right? I'm back in time. The year is 2015. We're on the stage at the Hideout with Mickey D. It's First Tuesday. And the whole idea was like, this election between Rahm and Chewy's going to go into the wee hours. So we're going to stay here while the votes are counted. And we're going to have Amaya Pawar was with us on stage. And Pat Dow was Proco Joe Moreno. How about these names from the past? Old Proco Joe. And so we're going to stay here all night. Like 20 minutes in, it's pretty obvious that Rahm was won like a pretty decisive victory, and then Proco Joe's, I have to go somewhere. He ditched us right there, Proco Joe.
It sounded just like him.
I bet you Proco Joe knows that. He's a big 90s guy, but he's more into rock and roll, not rap music, so he probably doesn't know that song.
Everybody knows that song.
Miles, do you know that song?
No.
Oh, okay.
It was a 90s song, all right? Way before guys Miles' age were born. Anyway, all right? So I'm feeling pretty good because, let's face it, folks, today or yesterday was a lot better than 2015. And they ushered in when Rahm won, when he beat Chewy, when he was able to win almost all the black vote that had gone to Willie Wilson, or a good chunk of it that had gone to Willie Wilson. He brought in 4 more years of regressive taxation and TIF handouts to the well-to-do and starving public schools of the money they need for things like special education and pretending he was doing all of it for the kids. So annoying. Wait. I was going to be happy today, so instead of looking back, I'm going to look forward. So come on, progressives. Come on, lefties. You got to feel a little better about today than you felt about 4 years ago, all right? And I got to say, it's the lefties of Chicago who are responsible for yesterday's triumph for Lori Lightfoot. It's the activists, progressives, whatever you want to call them. Let's go back in time after Rahm won that election.
Get that time machine out again.
Okay, when we get the
Awesome,
what was that movie with John Cusack? And he was like he would go into in the time machine, but it was in what is that thing called?
You were on such a good roll with this Rahm thing.
Do you know what? Craig Robinson was in it
Oh,
from Whitney Young. Anyway, all right. What's that thing called where you go like the water bubbles up and it's
a bong?
like a bath Well, whatever. Anyway, steam sauna, not a sauna. The other
spa.
Hot tub. A hot tub. He went. I saw that movie.
Hot tub time machine?
Yeah, you never saw that movie?
No.
It's definitely not worth seeing. But anyway, where was I?
Fantastic mayoral coverage here.
So anyway, after Rahm was forced, kicking and screaming, and I mean he resisted it, to release the Laquan McDonald video after a Cook County judge forced him to release the video, activists said 3 things. 1, we got to get rid of Gary Big Mac McCarthy, the police chief. 2, we got to get rid of Anita Alvarez, the state's attorney. And 3, we got to get rid of Mayor Rahm. And guess what? Here we are, how many years later? 4 years later, and all 3 are gone. All right? And Rahm was so chicken of losing that he wouldn't even run in the race. And so Lori Lightfoot was victorious. So come on, activists. I know a lot of you were disappointed that you supported Tony Preckwinkle. You felt for some reason that there was a huge difference between Tony Preckwinkle and Lori Lightfoot. I disagreed with you on that point. Boy, oh boy, did I disagree with you on that point. But at least you have to acknowledge that we're probably in a better place today than we were 4 years ago. So look on the bright side, Chicago. So that's kind of how I was feeling when I woke up, D. And then all of a sudden I read the editorials and like Cranes and the Tribune, and they're like already trying to move Lori to the right, as though yesterday was a mandate to like cut pensions for retirees, make the geezers eat gruel. Folks, I'm telling you.
Is that the headline?
It's basically the theme of Cranes and the Tribune. Make them eat gruel. Anyway, folks, it's like one fight ends and another one begins. We got a great show today, everybody. Yes, yes, indeed. Monroe Anderson will be in the studio talking Trump, and Trump. And also,
I thought you were going to say gardening. I could have swore you were going to say gardening.
No, not gardening. And he'll probably do a little talking about the Chicago mayoral election as well, because Monroe's been around town for a while. And in the 2 o'clock hour, Tracy Baim, yes, the boss, will be here. So one more time, take that pizza carton. All right? How many times do I have to tell you don't leave the pizza carton? Tracy Baim, before she became publisher of the Reader, was the publisher of Windy City Times, and she's covered the LGBTQ community in Chicago since the 80s. So the headline, she actually wrote an essay about it for my beloved Bright One, the Chicago Sun-Times. Lightfoot's election, latest milestone in a 100-year LGBTQ journey in Chicago. So Tracy will be in studio talking about the consequences, the historical ramifications of Lori Lightfoot's victory yesterday. And then we'll do a little change of pace in the final hour. The great Steve Cohen, producer Steve Cohen, and Paula Froehle will be in the studio talking about Doc 10. That's the great documentary film festival that will be opening at the Davis Theater in the Northside. Folks, you got to run, don't walk. There's a great Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez documentary that traces her victory. And I already got my tickets, D. Got my tickets already. It follows Ocasio-Cortez from start to finish as she defeated Joe Crowley in the Democratic primary back 2018. So, lots to talk about with Stevie Cohen and Paula Froehle. Love talking about Doc 10 with them. So we have a great show, a lot of political talk, local political talk, national political talk. We'll get into all that. Maybe Dennis will do some more of his favorite songs from Ice Cube. Miles will start singing some Isley Brothers songs, Footsteps in the Dark. You know that one, don't you?
I've heard of it.
Okay, yeah, it's one of your dad's favorite songs, by the way. Yep. I hear footsteps, baby.
Please.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, before we do any of that, the doctor has the news.
Hey there. I do love Ice Cube. It's the middle of the day. Yes, Lori Lightfoot won the mayoral election. And believe me, we're going to keep talking about it, okay? But first, let's talk about that national news happening this afternoon. Hey, Ben, you hear that? Yeah, there's a storm a-brewing.
Oh, what did Trump do?
Yeah, a storm between Congress and the Trump administration.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Stormy Daniels.
Oh, yeah, that's so 2018. The House Judiciary Committee today approved a subpoena to obtain the full confidential report from special counsel Robert Mueller, sending a warning to Attorney General William Barr not to redact Mueller's report.
Yeah, not to redact Mueller's report. Yeah, we're going to have to bring Jim Coogan in here for the deep dive in this one. Jim, if you're listening, get ready to come back to the show next week or so to do the deep dive. Monroe will be talking about this as well. Yes. Do you, America, trust William Barr and Donald Trump to release the actual report as it is, or do you expect big black marks? I remember like going back to the local elections, Mayor Rahm, that's one of my favorite redactions. Somebody requested information about I think it was a school closing. Anyway, he sent back a blank piece of paper. That was like the only public document he had regarding the request from the Public Records Act request, a blank piece of paper. So I got this feeling that Barr and Trump will be up to more of the same with the Mueller report, just like black out huge chunks on the grounds that somehow or other it is confidential. We can't see it. We, the American people, can't see it. But it's okay for them, we talked about this yesterday, to allow people who don't have security clearance to get security clearance. They get to see it, all right? So somehow or other, we, the American people, don't get to see it. I'm hoping that my libertarian friends in the Republican Party come out from under the table, stop hiding, stop being chicken, and join the fight for transparency on all levels of government. How about that? Wouldn't that be interesting? All right. Yeah, don't expect it to happen anytime soon. But the Dems trying to put a little heat on President Trump.
So the Mueller investigation, well, it's to a close, but it's still continuing. And another news nationally, just when you thought our president couldn't sound any more like your drunk uncle at the Christmas party, Donald Trump raised the bar with his speech last night at the National Republican Congressional Committee's annual spring dinner. By the way, Ben, how jealous are you that you weren't invited to that dinner?
First of all, I was invited. It's just busy. I had to go to Mars. I couldn't make it to the Mars Brewery last night.
The Mars Brewery.
Yeah,
okay.
Not Mars, the planet, the Mars Brewery in Bridgeport, where Maya and I did our election night coverage. So otherwise, I would have been at that Republican thing.
Oh, man, bummer. All right, now, obviously, Trump did what he always does at this speech, troll Democrats. But I don't even think the most feverish of Trump supporters can make sense of some of these statements.
If you have a windmill anywhere near your house, congratulations. Your house just went down 75% in value. And they say the noise causes cancer. You tell me that one, okay?
Huh?
What? Is that the noise of the windmill?
Yeah. Sounds like something you do.
I know. Donald Trump, he's like, he's been listening to the show.
Love that show. Not a big fan of Monroe, but Sposato was great.
He loves Sposato. Trump loves listening to the show when Nick Sposato's on. All right, Donnie, we'll bring him back just for you, all right?
Yeah, kind of weird, you know? Even a zinger on the heavily rumored 2020 presidential candidate and former vice president, yes, personal space invader, Grandpa Joe Biden. Yeah, even his insult to Biden was a little awkward.
We're going into the war with some socialists, and it looks like the only non-sort of heavy socialist, he's being taken care of pretty well by the socialists they got to him. Our former vice president, I was going to call him, I don't know him well, I was going to say, welcome to the world, Joe. You having a good time, Joe? Are you having a good time?
Huh? What?
He is always trash talking Donald Trump. He loves getting up there and ripping the Democrats. Yeah, obviously Trump is enjoying it. We had to talk to Monroe about this one. I'm sure the internal White House polls show Joe Biden defeating Donald Trump. I just have a feeling they show Joe Biden. At this point, it's early. Lots can happen. Joe Biden may not even run for all we know, but I'm sure I got a feeling, as the Beatles would say, that those internal polls are showing Joe Biden beating Donald Trump. And that's why Trump is so happy that Joe Biden has got caught in Hugging Gate. We talked a lot about Hugging Gate, his propensity to start hugging women inappropriately.
I like touchy-feely gate.
Touchy-feely gate? All right, touchy-feely gate. Hi, how are you? I'm Joe Biden. You really got to stop it, Joe. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so Trump is really happy. He's hoping, of course, that it derails Joe Biden and keeps the Biden from being, because I think Biden would beat Donald Trump, no doubt in my mind, one-on-one. But again, as I said, we don't even know if Joe Biden will run, much less if he can win the Democratic primary. So Trump is enjoying trash-talking Democrats. He loves doing it. And as long as he's just doing that, D, and not doing really stupid things like destroying Obamacare, I guess I can sort of take it.
All right, we'll play one more piece of audio here. Actually, we'll probably more than likely play that windmill one again.
We got to do that for Monroe.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have to play that for Monroe.
Now, you can't see the video of this stupid dinner, but I'll paint the picture for you, okay? Now, this is the part where everyone at the dinner puts on their tinfoil hats. Here's Trump on Democratic voter fraud.
We're going to watch those vote tallies. You know, I keep hearing about the election and the various counting measures that they have. There were a lot of close elections that were, they seemed to, every single one of them went Democrat. If it was close, they say the Democrat, well, there's something going on, fella. You got to be a little bit more paranoid than you are, okay? Look, all these beautiful people, these beautiful Republican congressmen and women. But we have to be a little bit careful because I don't like the way the votes are being tallied. I don't like it, and you don't like it either. You just don't want to say it because you're afraid of the press.
Oh, yeah, they're afraid of the press.
But we have to be careful.
I must say, not a great performance from Donald Trump.
Donnie, you got to come and drink a cup of coffee or something. You got to bring a little more to the table. First of all, I agree with John Trump there. I was not happy with the election results, particularly one in 2016 when he got elected. That's number one. And number two, the only evidence I know of out-and-out voter fraud was, when was that? Was that in North Carolina? I think it was a congressional race where they had to redo it because guess what? The Republicans cheated with their absentee ballots. Funny, Donald did not mention that in his speech.
No.
But the thing about the beautiful Republicans and women, like what? Where did that come from? Beautiful Republicans and women. So Donald Trump is in rare form yesterday in front of, what was it? The congressional.
Some Republican dinner. No salad had at that dinner, by the way.
salad.
All meat and potatoes. Now, of course, we will keep you posted on these stories as today's program rolls along.
If you have a windmill anywhere near your house, congratulations. Your house just went down 75% in value. And they say the noise causes cancer. You tell me that one, okay?
All right, let's move on from this. You ready to find out what's going on in Chicago and or Illinois,
my
Benny J?
God, what a president. I was born ready.
Fantastic answer. Because coming up after these words from our host, Ben Joravsky, people, we're going to find out what else is news.
All right, very good, D. I cannot wait. Hey, everybody, I like to joke around a lot, but let me get serious for a moment and tell you about the Chicagoland cremation options. When you lose a loved one whose wishes were to be cremated, Chicagoland Cremation Options provides your family a dignified and affordable cremation service. Chicagoland Cremation Options helps you bypass the expensive overhead of a funeral home or cemetery by streamlining the cremation directly. Sometimes it could save you upwards of thousands of dollars. Chicagoland Cremation Options Crematory, just south of O'Hare, 5 minutes west of Chicago, a family-owned and operated business by Douglas Klein. Visit ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time, ChicagolandCremationOptions.com.
Ah, what the hell? Do it one more time.
Chicagoland Cremation Options. That's an S at the end of that. .com.
And we're back. It's time to find out what's going on locally. It's time for What Else is News. The election is over. And starting May 20th, Chicago will have a brand new mayor.
We've said it's time to bring in the light. And it's sure shining on all of us tonight. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Yeah, the former prosecutor and Chicago Police Board President, Lori Lightfoot. Lori Lightfoot made history last night by becoming Chicago's very first black, female, and openly gay mayor. She had a nice little thing to say here about that. If I can play it. There we go.
A lot of little girls and boys are watching. They're watching us. And they're seeing the beginning of something a little bit different. They're seeing a city reborn. A city where it doesn't matter what color you are. And where it surely doesn't matter how tall you are. Where it doesn't matter who you love, just as long as you love. Let me say that again. Where it doesn't matter who you love, just as long as you love with all your heart.
Now, people, we'd be lying right into your little ears if we told you that this thing was remotely close. Not sure if you heard, but Lori Lightfoot won all 50 Chicago wards last night. And that obviously includes her opponent, Toni Preckwinkle's ward, by 20 points. In all, Lightfoot won 73.7% of the vote to Toni Preckwinkle's 26.3%. The last time a mayor won more than 73% was in February 2003 when Richard M. Daley received 78.46% of the vote. Now, Ben, because let's face it, your younger days are behind you. It's the nicest way I could say
my
you're
younger
old.
days were behind me in 2003.
In heart, maybe not.
Yeah, man.
But in actuality and age,
heart.
yeah,
I'm young at heart.
And so let's step into that time machine that you had earlier. What's that sound like again?
What was it? It was a hot tub. It was a movie where they go into the hot tub, and John Cusack would go in and they would go back in time.
Hot tub time machine.
Am I the only person who saw that movie?
I think I saw half of one of them.
Okay. Oh, there was a second one.
Two.
Yeah, hot tub 2.
So let's step into that time machine.
All right, I'm in the hot tub, man.
Weird sounding, or the hot tub.
It sounds like Trump's windmill.
Don't make me play it again. Let's compare and contrast, Ben. Take us back to Daley's victory in 2003. And are you getting those Dickie D vibes after Lightfoot's victory last night?
Who?
Richard Daley.
Oh, that's who you're. All right, let me take you back to 2003. That was the one Daley election where I was thinking about voting for Daley. This is true. I never voted for Richard M. Daley, ever. E-V-E-R. And, yeah, that's ever.
No, we can spell that.
And 2003, I was like, I think I announced this to my wife. I think I'll give Daley a chance. Because we had a friend, I hope Pippi's out there listening, a dear friend of mine who knew Paul Jakes, who was the chief rival to Daley. And she said, I don't like Paul Jakes, so don't vote for Jakes. And I said, you know what, for Pippi, I'm going to vote for Daley. And then at the last minute, D, there was that stampede at the nightclub on the near south side. And I think 20 people died, and it seemed like the city was covering stuff up. I just could not do it. So I walked into that poll, and I voted for Paul Jakes. I was one of the 14% of the city of Chicago who voted for Paul Jakes.
Bless your heart.
Proud of that vote, by the way. Proud of that vote. And because the next 4 years, about a week or two after the election, Richard M. Daley paid back the people who voted him in by tearing up Meigs Field in the middle of the night. Remember that, Chicago? Oh, yeah, your little Daley that you love so much just tore up Meigs Field in the middle of the night. Laws don't matter to Richard M. Daley. And then that was some of the four most corrupt years in recent Chicago history, where the feds were investigating all sorts of job tampering accusations and fraudulent affirmative action schemes and hired truck scandals. I mean, in the Sun-Times. The Sun-Times broke many of those stories. So the city of Chicago, in its infinite wisdom, reelected Daley with 3% of the vote? Was that what it was?
No, it was 78.46%.
I got you. So I thought Jakes got 14% of the vote. Maybe it was more than that. Anyway, and so the city reelected Daley overwhelmingly, and he paid him back by tearing up Meigs Field and having 4 of the most corrupt years in city history. And then he sold the parking meters. If that wasn't enough, that's how you paid your back, Chicago. So anyway, that's my memory of the 2003 election.
Sounds a little different than last night's election. A little different?
Yeah.
Same? How do you feel?
Oh, no, I felt much. I like I said, I was singing that Ice Cube song when I woke up. It's a good day.
Song sounds nothing like that. All right, we're moving on.
Had to hide.
Please stop.
And end up with a fat burger at 2 a.m.
Listeners are gone.
Bulls beat the Sonics.
We're just talking to ourselves right now.
Okay.
All right, and unlike winning Employee of the Month at Applebee's, you don't just get to hang out and smoke weed at home the next day. Yeah, unfortunately, when you're soon-to-be mayor, you got to go out and do stuff. So
Okay.
Lightfoot greeted CTA commuters at the Clark and Lake Station this morning. Did you happen to see her?
No, I did not see her.
Shucks.
Did you see her? No.
You take that route.
Yeah, I take that route too.
All the time.
Yeah, I missed her. She must have been up a lot earlier than I was.
Oh, yeah, more than likely.
Because I was at Fat Burgers at 2 a.m.
Okay. That was actually pretty funny. All right, and today she meets with Preckwinkle for a unity meeting organized by Reverend Jesse Jackson at his Rainbow Push headquarters. She's also rumored to already have some transition members lined up, but we'll talk more about that later because, speaking of Preckwinkle, well, thus far, she's taking last night's loss like a champ.
I wake up every day, including tomorrow, just as I have for the last 25 years, fighting to advocate for and work for and fighting for my constituents. That's my motivation. And I will take it with me as I proudly continue to serve as your Cook County Board President.
Yeah, is that guy in the background? Was it from the ROM?
I think it is the ROM guy.
Yeah,
I'll look for the video. We'll compare and contrast that as well.
No, it was a Class C speech from Toni Preckwinkle. I got to wonder if she had led off the campaign with that sort of classy attitude and saying, you know what, we have two fine candidates running for office, and we're going to put our ideas out before the voters and see who wins. I don't think she would have won anyway. I think this was definitely a situation where Chicago voters wanted to elect somebody new, a new face, just a whole new person to run City Hall, break from the past. But I do believe that Toni Preckwinkle would have been better served if she had the same sort of tone and spirit in her campaign as she had in her concession speech.
Now, last night we also welcomed in a new black female treasurer, Melissa Conyers-Irvin. And we welcomed a few new aldermen as the fresh new faces of the 25th and 40th wards. They begin to process of wrapping their heads around all of this. Byron Sigcho Lopez and Andre Vasquez. We have aldermanic elections that are still too close to call. In the 5th ward, incumbent alderman Leslie Hairston holds a 206 vote lead over her opponent, William Calloway. In the 46th ward, Alderman James Kappelman and challenger Marianne Lalonde are at a 50-50 split, with Kappelman holding the lead by just 23 votes. And 33rd ward Alderwoman Deb Mell refused to concede to her opponent, Rosanna Rodriguez Sanchez, finishing only just 24 votes behind.
Yeah, so much to unpack there. Maya and I were talking a lot about the aldermanic races last night, and there was one other race that you didn't mention, which I'll get to, Matt Martin and Michael Negron. I will say this. When I saw the jubilation from those hipsters in the 33rd ward, they were so happy that Rodriguez defeated Deb Mell. It made me feel good. I mean, the young people, they were so happy.
Avocado all around.
By the way, everybody knows I love avocados. Donald Trump threatening to close the border with Mexico will have a big impact, among other things, on my avocado consumption.
When Ben goes back to butter.
What am I going to do without avocados? Oh, my God. We have to open that up. What can Ben use as an alternative to avocados? So they were happy. They were so jubilant. It brought back memories the way I felt back in '83 when Harold Washington won. So good for those folks in the 33rd ward, although that race is not over. It's probably going to go to a recount. It was very close. But the race in the 47th ward, I talked about this yesterday. I've talked about it a couple times, and this is actually important, not just in the city of Chicago, but in the surrounding area and the whole state of Illinois. In that race, Matt Martin was running. He was actually somebody who put an idea out before the public. You know, I give him a lot of credit because, as I've been saying all along, this election has been void of ideas. The candidates are afraid to put their, just proposals on the table because they're going to be easily distorted by attack ads. And the strategists tell them, don't make any promises. Don't hold yourself, set yourself up where you can possibly be crushed by a counterattack from your opponent. So everybody just speaks in generalities and platitudes, etc. But Matt Martin actually put an idea out. He talked about a progressive city income tax as a way to raise money, and then link that to a cut in the property tax and a cut in some of the fines and the fees, so we're not so regressively taxing our poorest people. Our most low-income people can at least afford it, and we have ways of financing government. It's a good idea. We should look into it. But what happened? His opponent, Michael Negron, just assailed him with flyers, so many flyers, which were taken essentially out of the Bruce Rauner playbook. It was like a Chamber of Commerce attack on the notion of a progressive tax, saying it was going to hit hardest at the middle class, even though it's supposed to do the exact opposite. And I just really irritated me, D. Like, here we are, we have Pritzker and the Democrats in the State House advocating a progressive income tax, trying to get Democrats to sign onto it. And in the city of Chicago, we have a Democrat who, by the way, Negron claims that Elizabeth Warren supports him, fighting it using Rauner's rhetoric. And so it's the one instance.
That's a mixed bag.
Yeah, it is a mixed bag. Rauner's rhetoric didn't work for Rauner. I don't know why you think it would work for him, a Democrat in the 47th ward. Anyway, I was happy to see an overwhelming vote for Matt Martin. I think he got like 62 or 63% of the vote. And so at least in one corner of the city, specific ideas were put out, and the candidate was not punished for it. And I've already reached out to Matt Martin, cut a deal. He's coming on the show next. He playing around, D.
He's still got it, listeners. For those who followed us on the old show, he's still got it. Cutting deals with the best.
Wheeling and dealing.
Oh, man. And he's been working out. You should see the arm twist these days. My Lord. Now, we talked about this before, after the show, just in discussion to do this. Just got a text from Monroe Anderson. He's 2 blocks away.
All right.
Break the fourth wall there for a minute.
Monroe's on his way. I was wondering, where is Monroe?
Yeah, we had a little post-show meeting. Let's just call it out in the open. All right, so Monroe's 2 blocks away. We got time still. We got some stuff to talk about here. So we got the aldermanic race. Let's do Rom Guy Gate, okay? People have weighed in on the Ben Joravsky Show live stream, which you can do as well. ChicagoReader.com, Chicago.suntimes.com. Click on the Ben Joravsky Show. Listen live. Send us a message. Say hey. Tell Ben he's horrible at singing. Whatever you want to do, it's fine.
Any Ice Cube fans out there, by the way?
No.
Okay.
What? Actually, live streamers. Ice Cube fans? Yay? Nay? Man? I don't know. So, Rom Guy Gate. So, for those new listeners here, we always played an intro on our old show. I've done it a few times on this show as well, of Mayor Rahm Emanuel. And it's... the guy. There's a guy in the audience there. It sounds like the same guy that was at Tony Preckwinkle's thing. So let me pull this up real quick. Okay, here it is, and let's listen for the guy in the background after Mayor Rahm says this stupid little thing here.
Thank you, Chicago, for this humbling victory. All I can say, you sure know how to make a guy feel at home.
That guy. That guy.
Yeah, you sure know how to make them. You sure know how to cook.
Now let's play that Preckwinkle clip again, and let's figure this out once and for all. If this is indeed the same guy, Rom Guy Gate begins now.
I wake up every day, including tomorrow, just as I have for the last 25 years, fighting to advocate for and work for and fighting for my constituents.
Not yet.
That's my motivation. And I will take it with me as I proudly continue to serve as your Cook County Board President.
I think that's the same guy. I heard the same guy there.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I think the first time I think that's 2011.
Yeah.
Was that 2000 when he first ran and first won? And so you sure know how to make a guy feel at home. And of course, that's like a direct line from that old song, You Sure Know How to Cook. But if you recall back in 2011, Mayor Rahm was on the ropes. That's like an inside joke from 8 years ago. He was on the ropes on a couple of residency issues. Number one, a lot of folks thought he was not really from Chicago because he grew up in Wilmette, went to New Trier. Nothing wrong with New Trier.
Okay. All right. Let's keep the New Trier listeners, please.
And Miles and I are like, well, maybe a few things wrong with New Trier.
Shout out to all our New Trier listeners. You guys are awesome.
Yeah. But secondly, there was the whole issue of whether he was officially a resident of the city of Chicago, whether he had lived here long enough in the months up to the election, or whether he had officially moved to Washington when he went to serve for Barack Obama's chief of staff. So it came down to a Supreme Court ruling that put him on the ballot, and that was the inside joke. You sure know how to make a fellow feel at home, or whatever he says. I'm like, oh God. But D, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this.
What?
People say, oh, Ben, you were hard on Rahm from the beginning. But I gave him that honeymoon, all right? Let's not forget, I gave him the honeymoon, and he was sworn in May of 2011, and I remember telling Mick Dumke, I'm giving him the honeymoon, all right?
Ben,
that's it.
You were so good at hosting this show. What a segue, my friend, because I was just about to mention that little 3-month honeymoon. Well, Lori Lightfoot is going to be our mayor here starting May 20th. So Ben Joravsky, with the time we have left in this segment, Monroe, please hurry up, my goodness. With the time we have left in this segment, please welcome our mayor, or soon-to-be mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, and share with her your wisdom as she transitions into office May 20th.
All right, well, conquistador.
Okay.
All right, my first hope, I'm going to put this out here right now, and I've said this in the Reader several times in my Reader column, and I've said this on the air as well. My first hope is that Lori Lightfoot speaks out against the $1.3 billion TIF handout that Mayor Rahm has lined up to give to Sterling Bay to build Lincoln Yards on the north side of Chicago using public dollars to gentrify an already gentrifying neighborhood. At the very least, I believe, as the incoming mayor, she should have the responsibility to look at that deal, see if she's happy with that deal, see if it fits sort of her worldview, if it fits what she wants to do with city finances. There's a whole list of obligations in the Sun-Times today. Fran Spielman wrote an article, a very good article in the Sun-Times, all the various challenges that Lori Lightfoot will face when she's mayor. She's going to have to come up with a new police and fire contract. She's going to have to come up with a new school contract. She's going to have to come up with money to pay off pension obligations. And then there's all the infrastructure repairs that the city is going to need. All of this is going to cost dollars, and folks are already feeling overtaxed. Folks are already feeling that the fines and the fees are piling up, and the city is unfairly soaking us for all the money it can. So it's going to be very important that Lori Lightfoot not waste or not squander the money we are giving her, the money, the tax dollars we're delivering to her, with something that she didn't even support. I'm talking about the Lincoln Yards deal, something that she didn't sign on to. And one more time, Lori Lightfoot, I know you know this, the money that will come to the property tax and to the coffers from that Lincoln Yards deal we will not get that money for 23 years because it's in a TIF district, and so it'll just go to pay off the project. So I am really hoping at the top of the list, that Lori Lightfoot asks that the city council defer action on that deal so she can at very least study it and not tie her hands to spending all that money. That's what I'm hoping. That'd be number one, okay? Number one, if she does that, I'll be like, really? I might extend the honeymoon a couple months. It might be a 5-month honeymoon, all right? But I just have this feeling that she's not going to do that. I hope I'm wrong on that one, I hope I'm wrong. I know, by the way, folks, all you Tony Preckwinkle fans out there, she wasn't going to do it either. We had her at the hideout. She was ducking and dodging on the Lincoln Yards question. And so I don't think she was going to do it either. I think I just got this feeling when people get into to City Hall and they have all that power and they can dole out that money, it's too hard for them to resist. So you ask me what I'm hoping in terms of like the honeymoon. I'm really hoping that she just says no to that Lincoln Yards deal. That's just the starting point, and then we can take it from there.
You got 3 months, or you got 5 months, 3 to 5 months.
Yes, if she said, yeah. Well, I gave Rahm 3 months, so I think at least I should give Lori 3 months. How many give Daley? I think I gave Daley honeymoon lasted about 5 minutes. Daley back in 1989. I wasn't feeling Daley when he won in 89. I was still just really down from Harold dying, and then the fallout, the fight between Evans and Sawyer. I never got over that. So it took me a long time to get over Daley. And then, like I said, in about 2003, I was ready to vote for him, and I didn't even do it then. So there's my attitude about Lori Lightfoot. What I want from Lori Lightfoot's term in office, even before she's sworn in. This is going to come up in the next couple of weeks, so you watch. We'll see what she does.
All right, and we have some more audio to play here as we wait for Monroe. Come on, Monroe, take Elston next time. Let's see here. Here's just some of her victory speech here.
Thank you, Chicago. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. A few moments ago, I spoke with Tony Preckwinkle. In this election, Tony and I were competitors, but our differences are nothing compared to what we can achieve together. Now that it's over, I know we will work together for the city that we both love. Today, you did more than make history. You created a movement for change. When we started this journey 11 months ago, nobody gave us much of a chance. We were up against powerful interest, a powerful machine, and a powerful mayor. But I remembered something Martin Luther King said when I was very young. Faith, he said, is taking the first step when you can't see the staircase. Well, we couldn't see the whole staircase when we started this journey, but we had faith, an abiding faith in this city, its people, and in its future. So we took that first step. And as Father Mike says, we let our faith overcome our fears.
The guy, right?
That's
what?
right.
Remember the guy? It was funny. She goes, I remember something Martin Luther King said, and some guy, what?
Yeah, what?
By the way, I do have a memory. I've talked about this before. Monroe Anderson has joined us. He's sitting down. He's getting ready to start talking about Trump. But I do have this memory, D, of Lori Lightfoot and you. We should put the picture up on our Facebook page.
Oh, yeah.
From Sue Garza's Labor Day parade. It was so hot that day. It was like a sauna. It was steaming hot. And Lori Lightfoot was there gathering signatures to her petition. And this was before Rahm had dropped out of the race. It was just the original gangsters. Very happy to say that Chicago elected an original gangster and one of the candidates who had the guts to run against Rahm before he had, dropped out of the race. Yeah, it's easy to run for mayor when the big guy's not running. But anyway, and I remember when she was gathering those signatures, I was thinking, there's no way she's going to win. Why is she doing this? Remember we had the picture you posed with her? You're towering over. Dee is really tall. She's short. And she proved me wrong. So good for you, Lori Lightfoot. She did. She's absolutely correct. Nobody expected her to win, become mayor.
What a honeymoon phase you're in right now.
Well, yeah, it'll last until Lincoln Yards. Pull that Lincoln Yards deal. That honeymoon's over. I want no fond memories of, the Sue Garza Labor Day.
So there you are. Just like that, you're now in the know of what's going on in Chicago. Yes, Lori Lightfoot will be the new mayor of Chicago starting May 20th, and now you will have an answer. The next time someone asks you, hey, what else is news?
Here, let me tell you something.
Tell me.
Something that Lori Lightfoot.
Okay.
Lori marking into the Chicago Bulls.
Oh, nice. The rookie. The sophomore,
in his second year. And Lori Anderson, a great musician. All agree. You did a great job. Give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash. We got Monroe Anderson right next.
If you have a windmill anywhere near your house, congratulations. Your house just went down 75% in value. And they say the noise causes cancer. You tell me that one, okay?
Hey there, producer Dennis here. Thanks for finding and listening to the brand new Ben Joravsky Show. All right, so here's how this works. The Ben Joravsky Show live streams on the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel Tuesday through Friday, 1 until 3 p.m. Once the show is over, you can listen to the replay on our YouTube channel, or we throw it online for you to download by 4 p.m. Where can you download the Ben Joravsky Show, you may be asking yourself? Well, you may be asking yourself a fantastic question. You can find previous Ben Joravsky shows and guest interviews through several outlets. The Chicago Sun-Times online, chicago.suntimes.com, the Chicago Reader online, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you listen to your favorite podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, pick one. Just search for The Ben Joravsky Show. J-O-R-A, V as in victory, S-K-Y. So, let's recap. Tuesday through Friday, 1 until 3 p.m. Live streamed on the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel and downloadable by 4 at chicago.suntimes.com, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you listen to your favorite podcast. Yes, The Ben Joravsky Show is back. We're live and downloaded. Tell your friends and enjoy the rest of the show.
Commercial break over. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Yes, indeed, we are live from the Chicago Sun-Times. Monroe Anderson is in the studio with me, legendary journalist, former press secretary to Mayor Eugene Sawyer. He's here to talk Trump. We have a whole list of Trump things to talk about, but I cannot allow this moment to pass. Tracy Baim will be in the studio soon as well. We're going to be talking to her about the historic nature of last night's election. Lori Lightfoot, new mayor of the city of Chicago, Monroe. You must have been pleased, right?
No, yes, I was pleased. Although my position was that Lori or Tony was a win-win from my perspective, because we would have had a black woman mayor. However, I'm glad it's Lori.
You voted for her twice.
Yes.
Why did you vote for Lori over Tony?
Because I went to the Hideout, some guy's show, and I saw her there, and I was very impressed with her.
With Lori Lightfoot's performance.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I was impressed with her that night as well. She did a good job of dealing with that guy, whoever he was. Right. Tony, who was also at the Hideout with that guy, didn't do as well. She was ducking and dodging, invading, and all.
Well, that's Tony.
Yeah, that is Tony.
Yeah. In fact, I was on the Heartland Cafe radio show over the weekend on Saturday.
Oh, my good friend Tommy. It's Tommy's show, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the people involved with the program, I won't name any names, but she was working for Tony. She said she had been asked to come work for Tony at the last minute, after when the runoff started.
I see.
And so she went to do it. She said, as a favor to Jan Schakowsky.
Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky.
Exactly. And she says that she has known Tony for a couple of decades.
Yeah.
And most of the time, Tony hasn't even acknowledged her, said anything. And I've had the same experience. Tony is not a people person.
Yeah. That's...
she's basically a bureaucrat. And to be mayor of Chicago, you have to be a people person.
Well, the last one wasn't much of a people person.
Oh, I know, right.
So you either have to be
he's not the mayor.
They mayor,
two-termer only.
Right. You either have to be a people person or you have to have Barack Obama's endorsement. One or the other, okay?
Exactly.
And the last mayor had Barack Obama's endorsement, and now it's pretty obvious to me that's why he won in 2015. It's pretty obvious. So he owes it to Barack Obama.
Because there's stories of where he was at a restaurant, going to a restaurant, and he goes through the restaurant. It's in the back. The seating's in the back. He goes straight through the restaurant to the seating in the back where he's going. Doesn't shake any hands. Doesn't acknowledge anybody. It's just, okay.
Get out of my way.
Exactly, right.
I'm the mayor.
Right.
Oh, my goodness.
And part of the job is to deal with the residents.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they get to vote, They're the paid customers. All right, let's talk Trump. When Tracy comes in, we're going to shift the conversation back to local. Trump, Monroe Anderson. So much Trump news. First of all, did you hear that speech he gave that Dennis played?
Oh, yeah, and I saw it. And, and the thing is, remember, I was trying to back off that limb when I said he was going to be gone by the Independence Day.
Yes, yeah.
I'm almost willing to go back on it because I think he's auditioning to be a stand-up. He knows he's not going to be in office much longer, and so he's trying out his stand-up act.
Yeah, well, it wasn't very funny, although it was kind of, I should say that it was kind of funny that, like, when he did the windmill sounds, I have to admit, I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah,
No. I mean, and remember now, this is a president. It's not a polished comedian.
Yeah.
He has to work on himself.
He's got to work on the hands. Got to move the hands when you talk. All right, so do you think that pitch is going to work? Do you think like that attitude where he just laughs at the opposition, he mocks and them? Do you think that's what he's been doing now for 2 years? It's
going to work with the 35%.
As in the percent.
Yeah. The 35%, but if he tells them water's not wet, they're going to be running around arguing with people about whether water is wet or not.
That's true.
Right? But for those of us with an active brain, it's not going to work.
I love talking Trump with Monroe Anderson. Water is not wet. Okay, Donald Trump trying to convince us. All right, now in the other news of Donald Trump, front page news, it turns out that Mitch McConnell has convinced Donald Trump not to push for the eradication of Obamacare before 2020 election. It's clear. Wait till after you've been reelected. Monroe, can the people of the country be that dumb?
The 35, yes.
Okay.
Yes, they can. They could be that dumb. They still hate Obamacare. I mean, it's amazing. Some of them desperately need the insurance.
Yes.
And so they don't want the ACA. Don't call it Obamacare.
Yeah.
They desperately need the Affordable Care Act. So they need that, but they love Trump still. I mean,
Yeah.
it just defies logic.
Well, the one aspect that just I could not help but focus on is this. First of all, there's a court case that there's a judge who's ruled against Obamacare, so it may be eradicated by the Supreme Court, a Supreme Court ruling. So there's that problem, and which there's nothing Trump can do about that.
Right.
All right. So, but secondly, the notion is, follow this. All right, we know that it's really politically unpopular to get rid of Obamacare if we don't replace it with something, and we realize that it would probably dynamite our chances of winning re-election in 2020.
Right.
So what we'll do is we'll tell people, all right, we're not going to get rid of Obamacare until after you re-elect us. And so it's like the underlying assumption is that people are so dumb.
Well, no, it's not. That's not quite the way it is. They're not going to have a replacement for Obamacare until after he's reelected.
I got news for you. There is no replacement.
Oh, I know
the
that.
Republican Party has never put a replacement up for
I know that.
an alternative.
You know that. They don't know that. You remember Nixon had a secret plan to end the Vietnam War? Mm-hmm. And that was good enough for those who were into Nixon.
Yeah.
They just promised them anything.
Yeah.
Harris, this black comedian, when I'm not remembering his last name, I'm not remembering his first name, but he had this joke where he said that it's great to have an ugly woman for a wife because she'll believe anything you tell her. And so you tell her, I'm going to the moon, babe. I'll be back in 3 days. And she says, okay, well, you be careful. Robin Harris.
Robin Harris.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Robin Harris. Right. Dennis, we got to give it.
The views and actions of Monroe Anderson do not reflect those of the Ben Joravsky Show.
Monroe always trying to get us in trouble doing Robin Harris material. I'm like, where's he going with this Robin Harris joke? I know that joke.
This is a podcast now.
Okay, right. You can do anything you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You could be out there. You don't have to be so non-progressive.
Although, actually, I learned last night that you don't have to be so non-progressive. I learned last night we're actually going to be on the radio pretty soon. Am I supposed to keep that a secret?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Way to let that one out of the bag.
Sorry. Okay. Let's just forget I ever said that.
Okay, we'll forget about
I ever
that.
said that. Let's rewind that tape. Okay.
And then I'll return to my radio manners.
Yes, your radio manners. Those are always the best manners. All right. So it just seems as though the Republican Party and Donald Trump are really schizophrenic on the issue of health care. And it probably, as much as anything else, just exposes just the utter hypocrisy of the Republican Party. They don't want to engage in any meaningful policy debate and discussion. We talk about putting aside our differences and find common ground. They're just not even.
They have none. They are completely out of ideas. I mean, if you stop and think about it, for the last 8 years, they've been running against things. Mm-hmm. They haven't proposed anything new. I mean, they blew their wad back in the 90s when they came up with the contract for America.
Yeah. Well, it really hasn't. You're absolutely right about their ideology. In the 1980s, it goes back to Reaganomics, cut taxes,
right?
And that's basically been the policy. That's what Trump cites as his number one accomplishment was having cut taxes on the wealthiest people.
Well, the only two accomplishments he can really say that he's done is cutting the taxes and the Supreme Court.
Oh yeah,
and packing the court.
Packing the court, which it does not. That divides as many people as it wins over, if you follow what I'm saying.
Well, the taxes do
taxes too, yeah.
Yeah, because the rich, of course, are very happy. I mean, by that, and I mean corporations and 1%ers. But all those suckers who thought they were going to have $4,000 in their bank account are not finding that to be true.
Yeah, they're not finding that to be true, and so maybe. There will be a economic uprising in the 2020. Now, Donald Trump, the other news, of course, in the last couple of days, he's talking about shutting down the borders with Mexico. What is that all about?
Again, he's playing to the 35. That's what he's doing. He doesn't all the promises he made all the promises he made. Mexico was going to pay for the wall. I've forgotten. He made so many crazy promises, but none of them have come to fruition.
Yeah.
So he's going back to the wall and to keeping those brown people out at any cost whatsoever, because they're so dangerous that if we don't keep them out, then they're going to be raping white women in the streets.
And I don't know if he would articulate it that strongly, but it's probably the underlying theme. That's what the dog whistle is.
That's the dog whistle.
That's the dog whistle translated.
Right, exactly.
And how do you think that plays with the rest of America, with the rest of the 65%?
The rest of America is a loser, as is killing Obamacare.
Yeah.
Those are two very popular. Nobody wants the wall. I think it's 67% or something are against the wall. They think it's a waste of money. Obamacare, he almost single-handedly made it popular. So Obamacare is popular now. It's more than 50% approval.
Well, I can't believe. I mean, there's larger ramifications to closing the border, even beyond the wall issue, which is just a colossal waste of money.
No, well, the reason he's closing the border is and Trump's logic and stories are moving targets. I mean, just when you think you're focused on one, then it becomes something else. But today, the reasoning is if Congress does not give him this bill he wants, where he can keep children. When he takes the children, he can lock them up without people whining about putting children in cages and things like that. And if they don't give him that legislature, then he's going to close the wall.
So there's already been...
the border.
Yeah, close the border, right. He's not going to be able to build a wall. He's just going to close the border.
Right.
And already there's opposition from businesses in this country.
Oh, yeah, no, what they're saying is that if he's successful in shutting down the border, the entries, the automobile industry will go out of business. It won't just be GM; it'll be all of them, because we're interdependent on each other at this point. Mexico and the U.S. we go back and forth with business parts.
Yeah.
To cars. Obviously, no avocados, folks.
No, I know. I've been bemoaning that.
Trust me, it's all we hear about from Ben Joravsky.
Yeah, no, my beloved avocados. Right. No, it's such a. How do I put this? It's such a ridiculous proposal,
right?
A nonsensical proposal that will hurt so many people in this country.
Right.
There's no positive, positive result from it.
Well, now, if you'll remember, way back when you first started this show on that radio station,
the name of which I can't recall right
exactly.
now.
Well, when you and I was on from day one.
Yes. Day one, you were.
Right, Monroe Monday.
Monroe Monday.
Yeah. Not Monroe midweek as
it
is now. Okay. Anyway, when you started that show, I talked about how he was incompetent and that I thought that he suffered from early onset Alzheimer's. It looks like the Alzheimer's is progressing to me. And I only half joke about that. He was on TV last night talking about the oranges of the investigation. And he repeated this several times.
Do you have that tape?
Yeah, I have the audio here. Let's go ahead and hear it.
And I hope that this investigation now, which is finished, it's totally finished, no collusion, no obstruction. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation, the beginnings of that investigation. You look at the origin of the investigation, where it started, how it started, who started it, whether it's McCabe or Comey or a lot of them. Where does it go? How high up in the White House did it go? You will all get Pulitzer Prizes, okay? You're going to all get Pulitzer Prizes. You should have looked at it a long time ago, and that's the only thing that's disappointing to me.
Okay, Ben, so if you want to get that Peabody, I'm sure you would, to get on it, find out how the deep state first started going after Trump and how they've done it.
All right, well, that brings me to the next topic on our list, and that is the effort by the Democrats in Congress to force Donald Trump and William Barr, his attorney general, to publicize, to release the Mueller report, which I presume at this moment they're redacting huge chunks of it, so it loses all value.
See, what confuses me on this is why would they want to hold on to it when it exonerates Trump from collusion and from obstruction of justice?
You're being facetious right now.
Why wouldn't they just get fact? Seems to me they'd be waving it and they have it all over the media everywhere.
Well, that was sort of the artfulness of his initial reaction when they released the letter from Barr that said
it was a press release.
Yeah, was it press release?
It was supposed to be a letter, but it was in fact a press release.
And the letter said that there was no evidence. They were not going to bring charges of collusion. That's essentially what they said. And so Trump immediately said, "I was exonerated."
Right.
Which of course the report didn't say.
Right. No, and in fact, the report quoted Mueller as saying that he could not be exonerated on obstruction of justice.
All right, so there's
there's
a two-part response, and a political one and a legal one. The political one has to do with how hard did the Democrats push this issue, and then the legal one has to do with our right to know what is in that report. What's your stand on both of those things?
Okay, I think the Democrats have to push it. See, and the Republicans have become my gold standard. Mm-hmm. If this were Obama, would they be hand-wringing and saying, well, maybe if we push too far, we might lose some voters? And they would be beating the living daylights out of this. Okay, legally.
Way to keep it clean, Monroe. That was good.
Yeah, right.
Living daylights.
Exactly right. Now I'm practicing for
radio.
What may be happening in the future that we can't talk about.
Yes, we're not allowed to talk about it.
Exactly. Legally, it's a little more complicated than that because unlike the Nixon investigation and the Clinton investigation, this one was pulled in because, as we know, Starr went nuts on Clinton. He started off trying to find out if he was a crook, and then later found out that he liked to get head.
What was the last quote you gave? Remember the last quote?
The views and actions of Monroe Anderson do not reflect those of the Ben Joravsky Show.
Monroe Anderson determined to have the Sun-Times kick us out of our lovely little studio here.
I was talking about as in brain.
I see.
Oh.
All right. Anyway, Tracy Baim is sitting by. We're going to bring Tracy on. We'll take a little break. Keep Monroe here. We're going to bring Tracy on. She wrote an excellent essay in today's Sun-Times, Lightfoot's Election, Latest Milestone in a 100-Year LGBTQ Journey in Chicago by Tracy Baim, publisher of the Chicago Reader. That's right. She's our boss. Dennis, put those pizza cartons away, all right? Tracy's in the studio.
Sorry.
Yeah, Tracy. And then the bong. Get rid of the bong, all right?
Sorry.
Anyway, we're going to bring Tracy on. Yeah, Tracy's like, wait, bong?
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm sticking around. All right, we're going to have Tracy come on, and Monroe's going to stick around. We're going to talk about Lori Lightfoot's Monroe's got some memories on this front, Tracy, because he was there when Eugene Sawyer signed in the equity bill back in 1989. So we're going to take a little deep dive, folks, little historical lesson on the significance of Lori Lightfoot's election. And I may throw a Grandpa Joe question at Tracy and Monroe as well. So stick around. We'll be right back.
The Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you by the Chicago Sun-Times. For the latest in Chicago and Illinois news, sports, weather, and the latest in national news from a real Chicago frame of mind and real Chicago writers, check out the Chicago Sun-Times. Read the daily paper or online at chicago.suntimes.com. And hey, if you have a little extra cash, subscribe. And by the Chicago Reader. For a deeper dive in the daily Chicago news and for all of what's going on in this city, you gotta read the Reader. Music, arts and culture, film, extensive event calendars, concert listings, and more, including weekly political columns from writers like Maya Dukmasova and, yes, our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader is free in newsstands and at chicagoreader.com. That's chicagoreader.com.
Hey, guys, Dennis here. Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show for Wednesday, April 3rd is just moments away. But before we get into said hour number 2, we have to thank the following unions for helping bring the Ben Joravsky Show back. First off, it's the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 in District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. Thank you once again to those unions for jumping on board with us here in this adventure. And, of course, today's show and every show is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. All right, hour number 2, let's go. It is Wednesday, April 3rd, and live from the Chicago Reader Sun-Times Studios on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. In this hour of the program, we still got Monroe Anderson in studio, so that's right, the meanest arm twister in all Chicago still got it, baby. We welcome Chicago Reader Publisher Tracy Baim, a.k.a. Ben's boss. And we welcome film producer Steve Cohen. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist, Benny J. Ben Joravsky.
Yes, indeed. Steve Cohen will be in the studio about a half an hour with Paula Froehle. They'll be talking about Doc 10. Stick around, folks. There's some great documentaries coming to Chicago, to Davis Theater on the north side. We got Tracy Baim in the studio. Monroe Anderson is sticking around as well. They're old friends. They go back to the 80s, I want to say.
I've known Tracy since she was a teenage girl.
Wow.
And it was all good.
It was all good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Knew my mom.
I worked with her father, Steve Pratt, at the Tribune, and her father was really cool. On Thanksgiving, he would have dinner for the Tribune reporters who had to work on Thanksgiving. So during your lunch break, you could go over there and get a Thanksgiving meal and then go back to work, which was really cool.
And so you remember a teenage Tracy Baim?
Yes.
Saying, Mom, why are you putting all these people in my house?
No, she was wonderful.
She was wonderful. All right, very good. We have an update from Dennis before we go to Tracy and Monroe?
Absolutely we do. First off, just cannot get enough of this clip.
If you have a windmill anywhere near your house, congratulations. Your house just went down 75% in value. And they say the noise causes cancer. You told me that one, okay?
Good times.
I love the guy with that.
Good times.
Right.
Yeah, but the national news is going on. But big day locally here in Chicago. Yes, we have a new soon-to-be mayor starting May 20th, Lori Lightfoot. And we have several new aldermen and a brand new treasurer in Chicago as well. We went to both the Ben Joravsky Show Facebook and Twitter pages to ask all of you a question. If you could describe last night's elections in one word, what would it be? One word. Quite a few of you have reached out to us on the Facebook page. Well, we had one person reach out on the Twitter page, but hey, come on, step it up, Twitter audience there. But on the Facebook page here, we'll read a few of these words, and we'll get your guys' thoughts on it here. How about Mark? Oh, Mark Sims posted.
Our good friend Mark Sims.
Good friend Mark Sims. He puts demographics. That was his word.
Oh.
Then he put a little winky face emoticon on there.
Oh, I could think about that. Yeah.
Right. Aaron Goldstein, I think this really is the word here because we heard it so much. I think I have audio of that as well. Aaron Goldstein, another guy we know.
AG.
Change.
Change, okay. Yep.
That was a big word. They said it quite a bit there.
They sure did.
Our Facebook friend Jocelyn weighed in. She said, awake.
Oh, Chicago came awake, all right.
How about Marguerite? She says, bamboozled.
Yeah, she's cut from the same cloth I'm cut from.
Deborah posted here, if you could describe last night's elections, all the elections, in one word, what would it be? Deborah puts disappointed.
Oh, wow, disappointed. I disagree with that one, but whatever.
On to Babs. Babs, one word. Well, he put a hyphen, so I guess in a way it's two words. I don't know. He put anti-machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That was definitely prevalent last night.
All right, John put way more than one word, but we're going to read it anyway. John, come on, one word. But anyway, he puts Mayor Harold Washington's legacy continues. The war is finally over.
Yeah, well, the legacy was interrupted for about 30-some years. So I guess you could say it continues with a 30-year interruption.
No, there's the 30-year, the 100-year war. This is the
30-year interruption.
Right, exactly.
Our good friend Ben puts oops.
Oops.
Yep, just put oops. How about, let's see, I saw one that was really interesting. Maybe it's over my head. Maybe you guys get it. I don't know. Greg put chunky. Not sure what that means either.
Unless he's referring to what a chunk of chocolate.
Yeah, that could be what he's referring
to.
Could be.
Not sure.
Not sure.
We'll do two more here. One from Tess. Tess puts lit and then has a picture of a flashlight there. Right, so, she's doing the Lightfoot joke there. And we had a gentleman reach out on Twitter. Don't have the exact name. I believe DS was the name. He just puts, finally.
Finally. I agree with that one. I had relief. That was mine. Relief that, first of all, the election season had come to an end, and that the Rahm era had come to an end, or was coming to an end. So.
And over to the Ben Joravsky Show Facebook page and Twitter page, at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J, Show. Facebook and Twitter, Benny J Show. Give us your one word, and who knows, we may read it on the air.
Very good. All right, Tracy Baim in the studio with me. Monroe Anderson sticking around as well. Tracy, do you have a word that sums up
possibilities? I think there's great possibilities in front of us, and hopefully that Lightfoot fulfills the promises and bridges the gap, because there's certainly a lot of people that were not supportive of her, including within the LGBT community, a lot of younger folks and people of color. So I hope that she can really bridge those gaps.
Well, last night at our party that we had, the Reader sponsored at the Mars Brewery in Bridgeport, there were some folks who came on our show with Maya and myself and expressed disappointment in very strong terms, and along the lines that you're talking about. So maybe to help them out, maybe make them feel a little bit better, Tracy, let's talk about the historical ramifications that went down yesterday. As I've been saying all day, Tracy wrote an essay in today's Sun-Times. I urge everybody to read it. Lightfoot's election, latest milestone in a 100-year LGBTQ journey in Chicago. Tracy, talk a little bit about this. First of all, you've been along for the ride because you were the publisher of Windy City Times. So let's talk about a little bit about what the state of gay politics was like in the 80s when you first started writing.
When I started in 1984, there had not really been any openly gay elected official yet. There was someone who had won a delegate position for John Anderson in 1980, and that was a huge progress at the time. So really, the movement shifted entirely in the 1980s because of the AIDS crisis. At the point in 1984 when I started, there were fewer than 100 cases diagnosed, and you could really name all the openly LGBT people in Chicago. It was a couple hundred people who were willing to show up, turn out, maybe a few thousand others that would be in the social part of the community, the sports part, and show up to protest Anita Bryant or Pride parades. But a couple hundred people were really carrying the water for the community for a very long time. But AIDS forced people into a more public sphere to fight back for their lives, literally. And some of those people, including Dr. Ron Sable, ran for office in 1987. Baton Show Lounge owner Jim Flint ran for Cook County Board when it was a citywide race for county board. He got votes in every single ward. So those people started to have a higher profile, and out of Sable's campaign came a progressive movement, and Impact was formed, an LGBT PAC. It was the second PAC that had been formed. And then Tom Chiola came a few years later as the first significant openly gay elected official for judge in 1994. 25 years later, we have an openly LGBT mayor who's African-American woman. 25 years. So yeah, it's a 100-year movement because first gay rights organization was in 1924. But really the significant work on elected officials started once Sable and Flint ran in the late 80s.
You know, Tracy, I remember both those campaigns. I wrote about them for the Reader. In fact, if you guys look in the archives, you'll see the Ben Joravsky Jim Flint story where I went to the Baton and saw the show. And he was an interesting character running for Cook County Board. You're right, it was citywide at the time. But the Sable one was a really important election, in my humble opinion, Tracy, because Ron Sable, aside from being openly gay and not being afraid to admit it, was really a committed progressive and championing all kinds of progressive issues, running on the north side as an ally of Mayor Harold Washington. And it was like, I remember being disappointed, and let's talk about it a little bit, the response of many of the gay leaders in that area cut a deal with Bernie Hansen. You remember this?
Oh, yeah. Hansen was not necessarily anti-gay, but he was not pro-gay either. And there were a lot of gay bar owners, a lot of gay business people, and a gay liaison. There were a lot of people against Sable's campaign, let's put it that way, in the gay community. And he came within a few dozen votes. It was less than 100 votes in that 1987 election. It scared the bejesus out of a lot of white conservative alder people. it helped really, I think, cement the human rights ordinance a couple of years later, because they realized the clout of the gay community across the city, that Hansen, one of their friends, almost lost an election. The next time Sable ran, he lost by a lot more, because Hansen really became much of a different campaigner and elected official.
Well, as the kids say, he woke. And Bernie Hansen saw the writing on the wall. He realized that gay people get to vote too. And, so might as well get their votes. And it didn't take much, in my humble opinion, to win over many of those leaders of the gay community in Lakeview area, Boys Town area. And again, I'm speaking as, a Harold Washington guy. I was very disappointed because I thought Ron Sable truly, in fact, there's a Ron Sable Award to this day, which I happen to say I won once. But it speaks to his legacy as a real progressive. There's so much talk about progressives, Tracy, and some are not real progressives.
Yeah.
Do you think that set back the cause, if you will, when Ron Sable was not victorious in 1987?
Not at all, because he came so close. He not only shifted the whole landscape in the city council, because now they were on warning about the gay rights bill, that they were vulnerable. Eugene Schulter was vulnerable. I had started a gay rights group in the 47th Ward. I lived there then, and we were going after Schulter because he was against the gay rights ordinance. So they were all these aldermen who were in areas where the ground was shifting. That Sable campaign was like an earthquake. They knew that they had to change, and they eventually voted for the gay rights bill, and also just became different alderpersons. Burke was like that, even though he didn't have a lot of gay folks in his district that were active. He knew the writing was on the wall, too.
All right, let's talk about, Monroe has some great memories on the gay rights bill, because at the time, Monroe was press secretary to Eugene Sawyer. But Tracy, just talk a little bit about what was in the gay rights bill. Like, what was the gay rights bill?
Well, under Harold Washington, the bill had failed. And it was important for the community that a vote was had, because a lot of people talked out of both sides of their mouth at the time, said they supported. But then when it came down to actually voting, we wanted to know who was on our side. So it did lose, and people were like, oh, it's so sad it lost. No, now we had people on the record. We can run against them. We can fight against them. So then by the time Sawyer took over for Washington, the movement was much stronger. Certainly the AIDS crisis caused a lot of that outward movement happening. And we had people that were much more scared of the community, and of course a few people that were elected that were more progressive during that time.
Yeah, so it came down to a vote, and Monroe, take the story away. You were there with Eugene Sawyer.
Yeah, I was his press secretary. John Henry, who was a columnist for Windy City Times, back then was a friend of mine, and we had discussed the bill. I arranged for a meeting. A group of gay activists came in and met with Sawyer. He was getting great resistance on the bill from the black ministers on the south and west sides of the city. So his position, because he was concerned about his base, was that he didn't think he was going to support it for fear of the black ministers. After the meeting, just the two of us in his office, in the mayor's office, I said, you need to support the building. It's the right thing to do. I said, they are being discriminated against as we were discriminated against. And now I don't know if I single-handedly did this or there were other people saying the same thing or what, but anyway, he supported the bill, and it got through.
It got through.
Yeah.
I've always felt, Tracy, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on Monroe's as well. Monroe's heard me on this subject many times, that the level of opposition in the black community to gay rights has always been exaggerated by virtue of the fact that there were some very loud voices, the ministers that he was alluding to. I remember there's a gentleman named Hiram Crawford in the 80s.
I stood up to Hiram Crawford one time, and he was like 3 feet taller than me. And he was shouting down in front of the city hall, and I was trying to report and interview him, and he was just screaming at me as an openly lesbian reporter.
Was he openly mocking you? Or
No, he just was spouting his normal craziness.
Well,
he was crazy.
He was, okay, see, that's my point. So he would go on and on about God created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Right. That was his big line. He was very proud of that line. And then so the attitude that many people walk away was, oh, well, if this man is a minister, he must speak for a lot of people in the black community. I have never seen a result in an election in which that was a pivotal force.
No, let me just say this. Cardinal Bernardin was the chief reason the gay rights bill failed the first time and barely made it the second time. So the Catholic Church exerted the influence in that bill in the 80s, not the black church. The black church certainly had its influence, but the vast majority of the black and Latino aldermen of that era backed the gay rights bill. It was the white ethnic community that had to be brought around, and in part, on the day the first major vote happened, the Cardinal's office had a letter in the city council on the desks of all the aldermen in the city council opposing that bill. So no, it was the Catholic Church that was the real big force fighting against this. And eventually there was a compromise. It was called the Human Rights Ordinance, included a lot of other categories, not just sexual orientation. So there was a compromise made with the church, the gay community. It was forced to meet with the white Catholic Church to make changes to the bill. That never happened with the black evangelical or other religious organizations. The power was in the Catholic Church. So I agree with you. The vast majority, the first sponsor of the gay rights bill was Alderman Cliff Kelly, African-American man in the early 1970s, elected official. Anna Langford was in, her speech on the city council floor in favor of gay rights was amazing. So it really is, you're totally right. It's disproportionate. Certainly there were oppositions among all different ethnic groups, but the white media tended to focus on the black church's opposition and not their own bosses, the Catholic Church.
Yeah, the Catholic Church. That brings back so many memories. And what were some of the arguments that were advanced by the church to oppose the bill?
They are the exact same arguments they're using today to fight national LGBT equality, that they would be forced to hire gay people. The Catholic Church is still firing gay people within their realm. Provide health care in their institutions, to give them adoption rights. All these things the Catholic Church and other churches are fighting still today. The religious freedom bills that are happening across the country, right to serve bills, are very much in the same vein. The Catholic Church wanted the ability to discriminate. They didn't want anybody to force them to do anything they didn't want to do. And nobody wants to force religious organizations to do things that are specifically religious. But if they are entering the public sphere and doing things and providing services like adoption, they need to do that on equal footing. Otherwise, don't stop taking government money. You get tax breaks already as it is. You should be paying property taxes and water bills like everybody else if you want to discriminate. And then we'll fight you. That's what it's always been, and it continues to be. They want the right to discriminate. Nobody would let them say that about not wanting to have, provide services to someone based on their race or other things. This is one of those last areas where they can get away with it because of moral, quote unquote, moral issues. But believe me, a lot of them would like to discriminate against a lot of other factors too. This is just the one that's in front of them.
Absolutely. So how did you forge a compromise? What was the language that was inserted into the bill that finally got the Catholic Church to back off a little bit?
I don't have the bill right in front of me, but people like John Henry Damsky, Rick Garcia, Art Johnston, Lori Dittman, the Gang of Four, as well as some other people like Bill Kelly, were part of the negotiations to write compromise language. There are already a lot of protections for religions in the law, so they probably just basically reiterated what was already in existence, which is that religious institutions have a lot of rights that stop short of what they had wanted. So it was definitely a compromise.
And when the bill finally passed, do you remember the vote? Was it was it a close vote? I can't remember from 1989. Was it a close vote or was it pretty much a slam dunk?
I would have to look it up. It wasn't necessarily a slam dunk, but I think they knew going into it that it was going to win. It was interesting because Daley was in his trajectory as state's attorney to run for mayor. And a lot of things were happening behind the scenes with that bill because the next candidates did not want it to be on their desk. Mm-hmm. So Daley, a lot of people give him credit for supporting the bill behind the scenes and convincing some aldermen. My feeling is he just wanted to get it out of the way before he served. And he was doing all this other manipulation to be able to get elected. And so if he could get a few votes by saying he helped twist a couple of arms to get that bill passed, he would do it. So, and Tim Evans was in the mix. And so there was a lot. We benefited from the competition that was happening.
Although, it's really interesting because I tried to talk Mayor Sawyer into participating in the Gay Pride Parade, and he was skittish about that. And then the black policeman, who was his security, told him that he shouldn't be in it because it was a security risk.
And that's how he.
That's how he got out of it.
He ducked and dodged that one.
Yeah, and Daly was in it.
No, well, we'll talk about that, but I just have to point out Tracy Baim's analysis, which I completely agree with, that Richie Daly pushed it through so you didn't have to sign it, shows that there may actually be a journalist in town even more cynical than I am. Tracy Baim, what a cynical interpretation, but I completely agree with you, Tracy.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
That makes total sense. I don't want to deal with it. Let Eugene Sawyer deal with the consequences. Let somebody else. You know.
And I think that he might have said that could have hurt Sawyer in the election, right? Like everything was a calculus.
All right. Now, I have always given my gay brothers and sisters a lot of grief, and it's 30 years of it. I think I'll let go. I think the statute of limitation has expired, Tracy Baim. Mayor Daley, I believe, in 89 or 90, don't quote me on the date, marched in the Pride Parade. And after that, the vote on the north side, well, it was probably his anyway. As an old Harold Washington guy, I really struggle with these issues, Tracy. But, when I watch North Sider liberals vote for Richie Daley year after year after year, regardless of what his policy, like black people getting tortured on the South Side or whatever.
Yeah, no, let me tell you why that happened. I covered the Harold Washington race. And what happened was that the Lakeside liberals, as they were known, were a little vague. They weren't quite committed. But then you got Newsweek and Time magazines putting the mayoral race on the cover and just talking about how horrible it was.
Yeah.
And these people who had friends all around the country and in the world were embarrassed.
And
so they stepped up for Harold because they don't want to be known as being racist. I think that's a theory.
Well, that's probably explains why some people may have voted in 83. It was embarrassing. Bernie Epton went before it's too late. But I'm talking about in 90 or 91. Whenever Daley marched, I think he marched once in the Pride Parade.
Yeah.
And it was such a big deal that the mayor of the city of Chicago would march in the Pride Parade. And after that, I don't think there was any doubt that Mayor Daley was going to get the vote in the 44th Ward, et cetera. Did you ever find that, that activists on the North Side gave up too much to Daley just for having marched in that parade?
Well, I mean, I see the LGBT community a little more nuanced than gets often covered. So I know that I was covering people that hated Daley from day one and loved Harold or loved Jane Byrne. The race in 87 was interesting. The re-election of Harold Washington, far more gay people supported him by then than they had the first time. The first time it was a fight because Jane Byrne had done some stuff for gay people, more than any other mayor, of course, certainly than Daley Sr. So Jane Byrne actually had the diva vote, right? Like people thought she was going to be good, and she actually wasn't bad on the issues. But then once Harold was running for re-election, the community more solidly was behind him. But remember, Byrne ran again.
Yeah, in 87.
So some gay people supported Byrne. So there's never been a monolithic LGBTQ community. It's been divided on class and race, and especially geography, for its whole existence. So I've never seen, that Northside lakefront tax-paying folks vote a little differently than a lot of other folks in other parts of the city. The problem was once Daley rejiggered that election, where it's a general election, he always would have somebody knocking off the more powerful candidates. Tim Evans could have been mayor. But the divided vote allowed Daley to create this whole, years-long leadership in Kingdom. And he had really weak opponents over the years. So I think that there were people that got LGBT support before this all happened recently with Lori Lightfoot, but Daley just had a monopoly. That was the problem.
He had a monopoly. By the way, my next guests have walked in. I love it when guests come on time or come early. Relax, guys. We got Tracy Baim and Monroe Anderson. We're taking it. You guys can take out your pens and paper. Steve Cohen and Paula, take notes because we're doing a little history lesson about gay politics, the history of gay politics in the city of Chicago. Lightfoot in a landslide. Tracy, I've never asked you this question, so I got you here. You got the microphone. You're going to have to answer it. Do you think that Tony Preckwinkle was blowing a dog whistle in that first debate? Or I don't know if it was the first debate, but in the Carol Marie debate.
No, I do not. Mainly because Tony has decades of LGBT rights support. I could be naive on this, but I absolutely don't think that was a dog whistle. It doesn't mean other people didn't interpret that way, and I respect that they do. I think that Tony was awkward in the answer. But it didn't feel like it was intentionally trying to get other people. It's not like Lori was closeted, and it's not like all those people didn't know. So I think that I give her a pass on that particular thing because really, she was a longtime LGBT rights supporter. I don't see why she would have taken that approach in that. I think there were many other mistakes she made, all the way from not running 4 years ago to not running for rerunning for Cook County Board President. There's a dozen other things I would say that lost her this race and also were bad things, but I don't think that particular thing was a dog whistle.
Monroe, have I asked you this already?
Yeah, you did, and I wasn't sure, but now I agree with Tracy.
Yeah,
on that.
I don't know. I'm a little skeptical. Maybe it's that cynicism kicking in. Tracy Baim, just of all the things to compliment Lori Lightfoot
But listen
on.
to the whole answer. The whole answer provides a lot more nuance than just saying she said it. And I heard it again yesterday, and I thought, I stick with my original interpretation. There was a lot of nuance she brought up in that answer that helped me get to the point of my decision that it wasn't a dog whistle.
All right. Now, what when you saw the flyers came out, it was outside some black churches, when was it, a couple weeks ago, Monroe? About 3 weeks ago? What were your thoughts of that? What do you think? Who do you think was behind that?
I don't know, but I'm really surprised there wasn't more of that. I mean, we are not that far forward in the LGBT rights movement that stuff is surprising. It still happens all over the country. So I don't know where it might have originated. We have some really homophobic and transphobic people in this that live within the borders of the city of Chicago, of all races and all backgrounds. So I guess I'm not shocked by that kind of stuff anymore. I actually would have thought there'd been more.
Monroe, do you feel the same way?
Yeah, they were also distributing white nationalists, white supremacists flyers in the Beverly area.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this hate reared its ugly head.
Well, I have to say, if there was an attempt to dissuade people to vote against Lori Lightfoot, it collapsed. It failed colossally.
Right.
It was a huge triumph for her. Landslide victory, Tracy, every ward in the city.
Right.
And all that talk one more time about black voters not going for an openly gay person out the window. Lori Lightfoot won the 4th ward, which is Tony Preckwinkle's home ward. She won the 5th ward, which is just south of the 4th ward. Yeah, I always think of the 4th and the 5th as an extension of one another, The 3rd ward, which is just to the north. So it was just across the board. What do you think how do you think the press is going to cover the whole issue of the first family? You know what I'm saying? Like we're always talking about the first lady. I didn't even. I think, was Rahm the first one who talked about the first lady? Wasn't Rahm I didn't.
Yeah, Crane's had a nice piece today on the first lady's first lady or something like that on Amy. And Amy has a lot of experience with Chicago Public Library. She's got her own work that she's done in the city of Chicago. And I like to see that piece because it did give a more well-rounded picture of her. I loved that Lori put her family in the commercials. There was so many precedents set in this election. I hope they cover it like they cover any other mayor. No kid gloves. We want to see what's happening. Who are you appointing? The smartest people in the room like Obama did, or all your cronies in the swamp like Trump does, right? I mean, that's the thing that I think people are hopeful for. Lori was a blank slate for many people who voted for her, and now she's got to fill that in.
All right, I'm going to disagree with you on one minor point. Not sure that Barack Obama's first chief of staff was the smartest person in the room. But, that's a debate we can have another time, Tracy Baim.
He was smart.
He was smart. Too smart for his own good.
Yeah, true.
All right, now, before I let you go, I cannot let either one of you leave this studio without discussing Grandpa Joe Biden. Do you believe, I'm going to start with Monroe Anderson, and then Tracy gets to think of her answer.
Okay.
Do you believe that Joe Biden's behavior, where he has this propensity to just grab women and kind of hug them, get a little too close, kiss them every now and then, nothing that suggests an aggressive attack, but do you think that disqualifies him for being the Democratic nominee for president, Monroe Anderson?
No, in the sense of when you have a man in the White House who bragged about grabbing women's private parts, then the idea that some guy's giving a woman a back rub and kissing the back of her head for whatever reasons. But the problem is with him is he's not a man of the moment.
So you talk about Joe Biden?
Yeah, Joe Biden. He's basically he's too old. And I could say that as somebody who
who's old.
Who's old, right? And so, he not only does he have a history, but also he has a way about him that comes from another generation, and I think that's the problem.
So I would say this to people listening. Why does he only do it to women if it's innocent? He never does it to men. I don't think it's a disqualifier to run. I hope people would vote their own decision on that. My disqualifier for him to run is Anita Bryant. I mean, Anita Bryant, of course not. Anita Hill.
Right.
Oh, yeah, no,
that's to me, that was his original sin.
Yeah.
And let's just help folks out a little, our younger people. That, of course, Anita Hill was the law professor who came out in 1991 and accused Clarence Thomas, who was being nominated to the Supreme Court, of harassing her. If you read any of the literature, Tracy Baim, you know that she was telling the truth. And Clarence, with that little act he put up about a high-tech lynching to try to divert attention. And Joe Biden was the chairman of the Judiciary Committee.
But in Joe's defense...
Oh, here we go. Defending Joe Biden.
Exactly right. I know, which is horrible.
Okay.
But he's the one who pushed Obama into the evolving on gay marriage. And...
I'll tell you what, I've said this many times on the show, Tracy Baim, I don't know if you've seen this. If you go back, if you just Google Joe Biden and gay marriage, you will see a clip from his debate in the 2008 vice presidential debate. Who was it, the vice president? Oh, Sarah Palin. Yeah. And the issue was gay marriage. And Biden just says, he declares it. It's like a shock to hear it. Under the Obama-Biden, and I'm paraphrasing it, administration, there will not be gay marriage in this country. He just blatantly says it.
Okay, no, let me finish. Okay, the thing is, he evolved. Now, if you remember at the beginning at the election, he talked about Obama being a nice, clean, articulate black guy, which was incredibly racist. And they became best friends. What I'm saying is, you can change, but he has so much change to do, and he has some chains around his neck that I don't think that he should be the candidate. That's what I mean by he's old. He has too much history.
Tracy, do you have a front runner in the race? Do you have anybody that you favor at the moment?
I'd love a Kamala Harris-Pete Buttigieg ticket. That's right now. That's my
that's your dream ticket.
All right, I like Mayor Pete a lot.
Mayor Pete, or trying to get him on the show. Mayor Pete, you're listening. Come on the show. All right. All right, Tracy Baim, thank you so much. Monroe Anderson, thank you so much. We got Steve and Paula. There was a group called Steve and Paula back in the 60s, I want to say. They're on deck. They're going to be talking about the great documentaries at the Doc 10 Film Festival. We'll be right back after this.
Hey there, producer Dennis here. Thanks for finding and listening to the brand new Ben Joravsky Show. All right, so here's how this works. The Ben Joravsky Show live streams on the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel Tuesday through Friday, 1 until 3 p.m. Once the show is over, you can listen to the replay on our YouTube channel, or we throw it online for you to download by 4 p.m. Where can you download the Ben Joravsky Show, you may be asking yourself? Well, you may be asking yourself a fantastic question. You can find previous Ben Joravsky shows and guest interviews through several outlets. The Chicago Sun-Times Online, chicago.suntimes.com, the Chicago Reader Online, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you listen to your favorite podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, pick one. Just search for The Ben Joravsky Show. J-O-R-A, V as in victory, S-K-Y. So, let's recap. Tuesday through Friday, 1 until 3 p.m. Live streamed on the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel and downloadable by 4 at chicago.suntimes.com, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you listen to your favorite podcasts. Yes, the Ben Joravsky Show is back. We're live and downloaded. Tell your friends and enjoy the rest of the show.
Hey, that commercial break's over. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show. Benny J, take it away.
All right, we'll do. Steve Cohen and Paula Froehle in the studio with me, and they were always on the old show. Now they're on the new show. They are the brains behind Doc 10, which is a great documentary film festival at the Davis Theater on the north side of Chicago. I'm doing this off the top of my head on the corner of Wilson and Lincoln Avenue.
Pretty good.
Right? Not bad, huh? And
I haven't lost it.
I haven't lost it, Steve. It's usually when I do, it's under this table here. I just take it and put it right back. Anyway, welcome back, you two. Welcome. What about our new digs, huh?
Nice.
We will follow you anywhere.
Yeah, that's right. Off a cliff,
into the lake,
down a dark alley. It doesn't matter.
All right, in a dark alley. This is a tremendous film festival, folks. I cannot sing its praise enough. I've already purchased tickets for the one of the documentaries to be showing there. Before we get into the specifics of what you have coming up, and either one of you start, just tell folks what the festival is. When does it start? How long does it last? That kind of thing.
So Doc 10 runs from April 11th to the 14th at the Davis Theater, as you said, 4615 North Lincoln. We showcase 10 of the best documentaries that have not premiered in Chicago, have not been released yet in any of the streaming platforms, and they are fantastic stories. They run the gamut from immigration to climate change to what else, Steve?
Satanic Temple.
Oh, the Satanic Temple, that's right. So we got something for everybody.
Each of the movies shows once during the course of the festival, so you are able to see all 10 movies if you want to. All of the movies have had their festival premieres at the major festivals in the world, from Toronto to Sundance to Tribeca to
Hot Docs, South by.
Right. And we're bringing them to Chicago, as well as a lot of events around the movies. So in addition to the movies, we have VR experiences for people to see. We have panel discussions for people to participate in. We have dinners for people to be able to enjoy if they want to. And we have a special Sunday pitch session where 6 filmmakers who are in the midst of making what we know are going to be great documentaries will pitch their projects to a group of people who are sitting at the Carbon Arc Theater, which is housed at the Davis Theater, for brunch, and listening to the pitches and seeing footage of their footage or trailers of their upcoming movies. We use it as both a crowdfunding source as well as giving audiences a way to see what the next great movies are going to be.
So wait, I didn't know about the Sunday pitch session. In other words, and it's open to anybody, but there are funders in the room who are listening, and so the determination will be made after this, Paula, as to whether they'll finance the film. Is that correct?
Yeah, it showcases, like Steve said, 6 films that are in progress currently that we think are fantastic stories that need funding to get to the finish line. They pitch to a panel of folks that have the capacity to support it, but we also encourage people in the room as they're having brunch and drinking mimosas to also perhaps open up their wallet and give anything they can in order to help these movies get made.
So to give you an idea, the panel of reviewers includes one of the Sundance programmers, somebody from the head of Neon, which is one of the great, the documentary buyer from Neon, which is one of the big buyers of documentaries.
Cinetic Media.
Cinetic Media, which is one of the biggest media companies in independent film. And who else?
Paula Froehle, the co-founder of Chicago Media Project. That's right. We happen to fund movies.
All right. Now, so these are movies that could possibly be made. Let's talk about the movies that have been made. Mm-hmm. And at the top of the list is The Infiltrators. Talk about that, Steve.
Well, The Infiltrators is a movie that actually CMP has been a major funder of. It premiered at Sundance this past January. The movie is about a group of dreamers who purposely get themselves detained and put into a detention center in order to infiltrate it in Florida back a few years ago, both to be able to tell the stories of those people who were being detained there, as well as to help them understand what their rights were, because so many of them were improperly detained and shouldn't be there. The movie not only profiles the dreamers, but it also tells the stories of 3 of the people who they meet there, including one wonderful Argentinian gentleman named Claudio Rojas, who is wrongfully detained and ends up starting a hunger strike in order to be able to get attention to his situation, as well as the situation of so many others. and does end up getting released. Unfortunately, we have some very sad news to tell, which is that after the movie premiered at Sundance, and by the way, it won the Audience Award for one of the categories as well as the Innovative Technique Award, and we'll get into that in a minute why, and has gotten a lot of publicity. After that happened, Claudio, in his first check-in with ICE after the movie premiered at Sundance, was put back into detention. That was about a month or so ago. And
now, who is Claudio?
Claudio is one of the three main subjects of the movie, who's profiled his situation.
He's undocumented father, grandfather.
50-year-old man who had a job the whole time he's been in the United States. 20 years in the United States. And
has done his check-ins every time he's needed to over that course of time. He goes for his regular check-in after the film premieres, and he's detained.
They put him back in detention. And last night, they deported him. Last night, the ICE decided to put him on a plane and send him back to Argentina, where he has not been for over 20 years.
Leaving behind his family, which includes a new grandson.
We tried everything we could through both legal and political resources to try and prevent the deportation, but ICE was adamant about putting him on a plane and sending him to a place where he hasn't been for 20 years.
So obviously this is not going to be in the movie. This is not this chapter, if you will, is not in the movie. So what's the stated reason for sending him back?
We believe that it had to do with the fact that he was part of this exposure of the injustices in the detention center. We think it's retaliation on the part of ICE to demonstrate to others who might be considering doing that this is what will happen to you. Incidentally, while he was here working a regular job, his employer was withholding wages from him because he knew that he could as an undocumented worker, that he wouldn't actually have to pay him. And so they also filed a lawsuit against that employer.
Where did Claudio live in the United States?
In Florida. In
Florida.
In Pompano Beach, Florida. The detention center that he was held in originally was in the Boca area. It's one of the for-profit detention centers that grew up during the Obama administration and flourished in the Trump administration. This most recent detention, they put him into a different center called the Crome Center, which is another for-profit center that the Trump administration has really been expanding the use of. And his entire family is also based in Florida.
So does the documentary, the movie itself, sort of have a happy ending when it regards to Claudio? In other words, say like he's been able to get out of detention?
Yes.
Yeah, initially.
So you're going to have to change the ending of the movie.
Absolutely.
There will be a tie-in to this. It won't be in time for the premiere of it on Sunday of next Sunday, the 14th. But there will be a tie-in. But at the screening of the movie, we will have two of the dreamers who are in the movie, who are these activists who have been doing everything they could to bring out the plight. We will also have a immigration lawyer from the National Immigration Justice Center and a lawyer from the ACLU present to talk to the audience.
And so folks know if they want, are there tickets still available for this particular screening?
Yes, at doc10.org.
Doc10.org.
And I'm glad you brought that up because today CMP has decided that all the proceeds of ticket sales from this movie will go to the family to help support the family survive without their father and their grandfather and their husband. And we are also going to be asking if people want to donate to we've created there's a website where people can donate to, and CMP will match the funds that are raised to support the family.
Now, when you say CMP, just explain the acronym to everybody out there.
So CMP is Chicago Media Project that Steve and I co-founded in 2014, believing in the power of media to bring about change. And we feel that this film demonstrates the power of media that can have, frankly, a negative impact on individuals. And what we choose to do, as we're doing at this point, is to turn that around and use the film to highlight not just the plight of Claudio, but of others like him, and to help not have those stories suppressed by, frankly, a larger administration that would just as soon help these folks go away.
And in fact, The Infiltrators is just such a movie because despite this nightmare situation that happens, the movie itself is really a celebration of activism. It's really the story of these young dreamers who took the consequences upon themselves in order to be able to tell the stories of people like Claudio by purposely getting themselves arrested so they can tell those stories. It's an inspiring movie. It's a movie that tells about the power that people have. And this is just another example of what we have to do.
Steve Cohen and Paula Froehle in the studio with me. They are movie producers and they are organizers of the Doc 10 Film Festival, which will be opening up April 11th at the Davis Theater, running April 11th to the 14th. I urge everybody to run, don't walk, get your tickets. We've been talking about this one movie. Are you the producers of the movie, the Infiltrators?
Yes,
Yeah.
actually, The Infiltrators is a movie that Paul and I brought to our members and investors about 2 years ago. We saw it pitched at Hot Docs in Toronto, and we thought this was going to be an extraordinary movie. What makes this movie so great cinematically is because you could not film inside the detention centers, we actually had a situation where the people in the movie were giving notes to outside, and then we recreated with actors and a set, we recreated the detention centers themselves and what was going on inside. So the movie is part documentary, part scripted narrative, which is one of the reasons why Sundance awarded it its Innovative Film Award.
And what day will that be on, did you say again?
The Infiltrators will be Sunday, April 14th at 4:30.
Okay, and by the way, just if there's either you know the answer to this one, he was sent back to Argentina. Is it possible to win an order that allows him to come back to this country?
Anything is possible. It's unlikely.
Steve Cohen, Paula Froehle are in the studio. We're talking about the Doc 10 Film Festival. We'll be right back after this.
Grateful. Some of Biden's possible Democratic rivals say...
Hey there, producer Dennis here. Thanks for finding and listening to the brand new Ben Joravsky Show. All right, so here's how this works. The Ben Joravsky Show live streams on the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel Tuesday through Friday, 1 until 3 p.m. Once the show is over, you can listen to the replay on our YouTube channel, or we throw it online for you to download by 4 p.m. Where can you download the Ben Joravsky Show, you may be asking yourself? Well, you may be asking yourself a fantastic question. You can find previous Ben Joravsky shows and guest interviews through several outlets. The Chicago Sun-Times Online, chicago.suntimes.com, the Chicago Reader Online, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you listen to your favorite podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, pick one. Just search for The Ben Joravsky Show. J-O-R-A, V as in victory, S-K-Y. So, let's recap. Tuesday through Friday, 1 until 3 p.m. Live streamed on the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel and downloadable by 4 at chicago.suntimes.com, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you listen to your favorite podcast. Yes, the Ben Joravsky Show is back. We're live and downloaded. Tell your friends and enjoy the rest of the show. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show. Mr. Joravsky, take us home.
All right, Steve Cohen and Paula Froehle in the studio with us. And things happening
I'm
here.
having a beer, just chilling out.
They're eating something about our studio is just induces people to bring salad. Yesterday, Maya was eating a delicious-looking salad, and Steve and Paul are sharing a salad as well.
Lunch with Ben.
Yeah, lunch with Ben.
You should rename it.
Before we get into some of the more films or movies, whatever they're called, at the Documentary Film Festival, do you got an update for me?
Absolutely, I do a few updates here. First off, Ben, have you asked them if they've seen the movie Us?
I was going to ask them. You stole my question.
My.
I'm obsessed with Us. So yes, I was going to ask him that question.
All right, well, make sure to ask him that question. All right, here. So we do have a new mayor. I don't know if you guys knew this or not. Yeah, we're going to have a new mayor come May 20th, Lori Lightfoot. Ben, I'm happy to report unity amongst Lori Lightfoot and Toni Preckwinkle. They met today through Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Push organization. I'm looking at a picture of the two shaking hands right there. Oh, Jesse Jackson right in the middle there. So, boom, we have unity. All right, so that's good. So with them, shaking hands and getting along after that kind of brutal campaign they both had there, what future do you see for Preckwinkle?
Well, Toni Preckwinkle, she's still the president of the Cook County Board, and she's still the chair of the Democratic Party. She still has a lot of power. I think she had announced that this was going to be her last term as president of the Cook County Board. So, she has an opportunity to finish her stint as a public official in Chicago on a strong footing. I always thought about Toni Preckwinkle that there was a bit of a reluctance to running for mayor. People were begging her in 2015, myself included, to run for mayor, and she hesitated. She dropped the ball, if you will. And then this time around, she wasn't even an announced candidate. She was not one of the original gangsters who had, the audacity to run against Mayor Rahm. And all of a sudden, when Mayor Rahm stepped down, it was almost like she said, you know what? If I don't run now, I'll never get the opportunity again. Steve Cohen knows things too about politics. And suddenly she found herself running for mayor. I never felt that she was 100% into it the way Lori Lightfoot. Like Lori Lightfoot, it seemed like she seized that moment. This was her chance. And she announced very early. I don't know, Steve. I don't know how much you follow these things, but do you agree with my interpretation?
Absolutely. I think that's exactly right on. I didn't really feel that Toni had her heart in it. She felt that it was now or never. And Lori absolutely had her heart in it. I think her passion and her excitement and her enthusiasm is what really ignited the populace. And it's that and the fact that Lori is a candidate of change and Toni is a candidate of the old organization.
Yeah, the old organization is definitely out at this moment.
We have one more update here. Also, we're doing one word. If you could use one word to describe last night's election, what would that word be? Head over to the Ben Joravsky Show Facebook page and the Ben Joravsky Show Twitter page. Both of those handles at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show. All right, Ben, we have a 2020 presidential candidate update.
Oh, okay. I love these. Keep them coming.
Grandpa Joe. Yep, he has went on to Twitter and posted a video talking about the allegations here, and he says he's making a promise here. Okay, so let's hear from Grandpa Joe.
For the coming month, I expect to be talking to you about a whole lot of issues, and I'll always be direct with you. But today I want to talk about gestures of support and encouragement that I've made to women and some men that have made them uncomfortable. And I always tried to be, in my career, I've always tried to make a human connection. That's my responsibility, I think. I shake hands, I hug people, I grab men and women by the shoulders and say, you can do this. And whether they're women, men, young, old, it's the way I've always been. It's the way I've tried to show I care about them and I'm listening. And over the years, knowing what I've been through, the things that I've faced, I've found that scores, if not hundreds of people have come up to me and reached out for solace and comfort, something, anything that may help them get through the tragedy they're going through. And so it's just who I am. And I've never thought of politics as cold and antiseptic. I've always thought it about connecting with people. As I said, shaking hands, hands on the shoulder, a hug, encouragement. And now it's all about taking selfies together. Social norms have begun to change. They've shifted. And the boundaries of protecting personal space have been reset. And I get it.
All right, Joe. Taking a bull by the horn there and trying
is that an indication he's running?
I would say he is definitely running. If he wasn't running, he'd say, F you, mother beep.
Scared me.
Come on. I'm a disciplined guy, all right?
He's no Monroe Anderson.
Monroe
like a sailor, that Monroe. Right in front of Tracy Baim.
Oh, goodness.
Our boss.
Yeah, the boss. But, no, Yeah, I guess this definitely means that Joe Biden is running for president. And I think what Tracy Baim said is true, that there's some people of my generation who going to be the Anita Hill, the way he handled the Anita Hill's testimony at the Clarence Thomas hearing is going to hurt him more than Hugging Gate. And I know Steve Cohen and Paula, well, both of you probably remember Anita Hill's appearance in 1991. And so I don't want to drag you guys into politics. This is a political talk show. But I do believe you're right, Dee. He's running. I think that what he just did there will probably deal with this fundamental issue of him hugging people too much, unless another incident comes out that's even more graphic, in which case that could really torpedo his campaign. But I think he's going to be running. And Grandpa Joe, I always like the guy. He's quite a character. So I welcome his position in the race. The more the merrier, I always say when it comes to politics. All right, let's get back to Doc 10 of the film festival.
But we could talk about politics because one of our movies is called Knock Down the House. It's our opening night movie, and it's all about politics. It's about 4 women who ran for office in 2018, 3 of whom who didn't win, but one of whom did, and that one was AOC herself. Paula, take it.
Yeah, it's a fantastic story. And regardless of where you might fall in terms of the spectrum of how you feel about her political position, her story is incredible and compelling. She's wonderful on screen. She's very open and honest. And the film team got in early. Nobody had any idea where this was going to go. This wasn't like jump on at the last minute. They were there in the earliest days when she's sitting in rooms with like 4 people, trying to get them to care and convince them that she cared about their issues.
Now, AOC, of course, is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the newly elected congresswoman from New York, beat Joe Carley in last May, I want to say, 2018, and is now perhaps the highest profile rookie congressman I've ever seen in my entire life. But Paul, I've never seen a rookie get so much attention. Both of you have seen the film?
Yes. In fact, the film, we are part of the funders of the film. Chicago Media Project was a funder of the film. The film premiered at Sundance to unbelievable reviews, standing ovations with the Infiltrators, standing ovations every single time. Netflix bought the movie for a record-breaking price, but it is not going to be seen on any place other than Doc 10 Film Festival and a few other film festivals for quite some time until probably October or November. So we're very excited to have it. What's interesting, the movie is really a 2018 version of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. The movie is about the power of people and the power of grassroots politics taking hold. It is really about the democratic process at its best, and it is most inspiring. The stories of the other 3 women who didn't win are equally exciting and compelling and passion-filled as AOC's. She just happened to be a winner.
And so this is important to know that if you really want to be at the forefront of seeing this movie, you got to show up.
You got to show up Thursday night, April 11th at 7.
And tickets are selling fast.
Yeah,
yes,
I know.
Seven's definitely selling out.
I bought them. I bought 2 tickets. So tickets are selling. And who will be? Will the director be there?
Yes, the director, a couple of the producers will be there.
And we have a special Saturday morning. We're having a special event attached to the movie. This is on Saturday morning. We're going to have a panel conversation
about women running for office,
and it's
the
going
power
to
of women and the representation. And it will have
Amanda Littman, who has founded Run for Something, Genevieve Thiers, who has founded the New Founders Association, and
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
I can't remember who. The director.
Maybe.
The director will be there. We don't know about that one, and it's going to be moderated by Madeline Danino, who is the head of the Gina Davis Institute.
By the way, let's give Steve Cohen credit. There were no phone, no notes. He was just rattling that stuff off.
I may be wrong, too.
And he was like, how about and then we look at Paul every now and then. She's like, don't look at me. You're the one talking.
So we're going to have this panel that's going to talk about how women are disrupting the political landscape. Right after that, Madeline Danino is going to have a panel discussion that's about
intersectionality in media.
Women disrupting the media landscape.
All right,
so we've got 2 great panels going.
But if you want to see the movie itself, one more time, Thursday, April 11th at what time?
7:00.
And is it going to be in the big theater?
Big theater at the Davis, selling out fast.
Selling out fast. Go see it. So do you remember the names of the other? It doesn't matter. If the answer is no, just don't even. Yeah, okay, we won't even go into the other candidates. But it is interesting because I've had Steve James on the show and talking about like the unexpected twists and turns of a documentary filmmaker when you start following somebody. You're the proverbial fly on the wall, if you will, and then all of a sudden that person turns into somebody famous or something. Really profound happens, like with Hoop Dreams, when the twist in terms of Hoop Dreams. And in this case, you're absolutely correct. That the film, who was the director?
Rachel Lears.
Just happened to stumble upon the great superstar of American politics. And does that come through? Does
absolutely. I'll tell you what, we track documentaries in progress all the time for Chicago Media Project. We must have seen 10 pitches about movies that were tracking candidates who were running for office in 2018. It was kind of the thing. And we just saw none of them really having kind of the gravitas to it. When we were pitched this movie, which is right around Thanksgiving, we looked at it, we said, this is the one. It captures the passion, it captures the excitement, it captures the sense of what democracy really is. The other 3 candidates, I'm terribly sorry that we can't remember their names. I do know one is Christy Bush. She ran for Congress out of Nevada. Didn't win, but her race was really a race. I'm sorry, not Missouri. Her race was really about, again, a woman, an African-American woman who came out of nowhere, had no money or organization behind her, but she wanted to challenge the incumbent in order to be able to establish that people can make a difference. One of the other candidates is a woman who ran against Joe Manchin in the primary in West Virginia for Senate. Again, never ran for office before. She wanted to do it because she wanted the people of West Virginia who were the progressive and who didn't believe in all of the things that Joe Manchin felt he had to move to in order to be able to win that primary.
I believe that was Paula Jean Swearingen.
Yeah, and that's
Nevada.
No, Paula Jean.
Oh, Paula Jean is West Virginia.
Yeah.
That's right.
Amy Vieira.
Amy Vieira is the last one. She was running in Nevada for a congressional seat.
And Joe Manchin, of course, is the incumbent Democratic senator of West Virginia who frequently votes with the Republicans. And so that was a great sort of like ideological battle within the Democratic Party. We have time to talk about one more movie. Is there another movie that you really want to highlight that's going to be at the Doc 10 Festival?
Closing night on Sunday evening is a wonderful film called The Biggest Little Farm, which is about a couple who were in LA and decided that they needed to chuck the urban lifestyle, and they bought some land in Northern California that was dead and arid and unproductive, and turned it into one of the most remarkable farms you will ever see. And it is really the story of the struggle of what ended up, they thought it might take a couple of years to flip the land. It took over a decade. And they attempt, because they want the farm to be completely organic and feeding off of itself and being self-contained, the things that they struggle with are just incredible.
It is a great story. It's so well made, and it's captivating.
You love them, you love the animals, you love the whole story.
And at the end of the movie, we're going to have a few people there for the Q&A and the closing night. Because it is the closing night, we're going to have some people who are doing a sustainable farm in Wisconsin, same kind of thing, and we're going to have samples of the sustainable foods for the audience to be able to try.
Oh, food. Okay, I may have to be there.
Food.
But I can't. We can't stop it unless we talk about Hail Satan.
Oh, yeah.
Hail Satan is a great
Steve's
movie.
favorite movie.
It's Friday night.
No, it's not. It's Saturday night.
Saturday night at 9:30.
Yeah.
The movie is about the satanic temple, but the movie is called Hail Satan with a question mark. It's really the
Satanic Temple?
Yep.
What's that?
Well, that
in the
is
movie.
It's a religious group, but
It's a
what they really
5-year-old
are,
rabble-rousing organization that's
who are
more than a
challenge-
gang of political pranksters.
they go out and they challenge whenever one of the Christian groups wants to put a 10 Commandments in front of a state building. They say, "Well, we want to put a satanic, the satanic memorial up in front." It's really about the First Amendment,
and it's very funny.
and very
funny.
Yeah.
Very funny.
All right, now I'll remind folks that I think it was last year, and I'm doing this out of memory. Didn't you end the Mr. Rogers movie there?
We did.
last
Yeah,
year?
the Mr. Rogers
and RBG.
And RBG, and they
RBG.
both became big hits
Big
for
hits.
documentary.
One went on to be nominated for an Academy Award.
Or
One
didn't they-
should have been.
Wait, time out. Didn't they both get
They
nominated?
were shortlisted. RBG made it all the way.
And I bet I shouldn't let this cat out of the bag. I was at an Oscar pool.
I told you.
Yeah, and I texted Steve. I go, "Hey, Steve, give me the scoop. The skinny on the documentaries, because Paul, I don't know anything about like the short documentaries.
Right.
So I went with his bets, and I lost the pool. But you did tell me the one to go with. I went with RBG.
Period. End of question.
Yes, you did tell me. If I had listened to Steve Cohen, I still would have lost the pool. Anyway, Steve Cohen and Paula Froehle, thanks so much. It's always a blast talking movies with you. One more time, folks, Doc 10, April 11th to the 14th at the Davis Theater. What's the website they can go to?
www.doc10.org. That's doc10.org.
All right, that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez flick sounds great. Hail Satan sounds great as well. Also want to thank Monroe Anderson and Tracy Baim, our guests earlier in the show. Thanks Miles Porter, our editor, doing a great job as he always does. And of course, the man, the myth, the legend. Oh yeah, from Alton, Illinois. The ladies all love him for his body and his mind. They call him the Doctor. Keep yourself raised, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
So.
Hey, remember, you can download this show, all right, if you missed any of it, at chicagoreader.com and chicago.suntimes.com. chicagoreader.com, chicago.suntimes.com, and we will be back with a brand new Ben Joravsky show tomorrow, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time. We hope you'll join us.